All right, today I want to talk about the first Airbnb deal I ever actually did. Okay, now this is not going to be a success story of me teaching you and showing you guys how to close massive single family deals and luxury houses. No, this is actually a humbling experience that I had when I got first started in the real estate business. Okay, I lost money on this deal, full disclosure. I made a lot of mistakes on this property. And I feel like this is just the type of stuff that nobody really talks about online because people just want to flex revenue, how much money they're making, the cars, the watches, and all the successful things they've done. But nobody wants to talk about the trials and the errors that they had to actually go through if they're successful entrepreneurs to get to the point that, you know, where they are right now. There's just a lack of transparency online. So I wanted to make this video to go over that, right? And this business of real estate, especially Airbnb, is not all sunshine and rainbows. You will lose money. There are times that you will sign leases on properties in areas that are restricted that you had no idea of, right? So like, there's just a lot that can go wrong, bro. And that's why I wanted to make this video to go over that. Transparently, no cuts, no edits, no crazy effects. Like, it's just raw experience of me going over what I went through. So my first Airbnb deal I did was in Baltimore, Maryland. Okay, if you guys don't know where that is, it's a small city in Maryland. And the reason why I signed my first lease there is because I actually went to university, actually in Towson University, which is a university in Baltimore technically. And I just was familiar with the area, and so I was like, hey, you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and sign a lease here. And it was during the time I was transitioning and transferring from Towson University to University of Maryland, which I went to, and I graduated with a bachelor's in economics. And the process was like, the transition was pretty difficult because I had to move over all my classes and my credits and all that stuff. So the point of the story is I went and I signed this lease that I was going to like stay in while I was going to transfer, and then, or while I was living in Towson. And then when I transferred, I ended up just moving to an apartment on Towson, like on campus, or on Maryland. So I turned that unit into an Airbnb. And I always knew I was going to turn into an Airbnb because I anticipated the transfer to University of Maryland. So I was like, I'm just going to Airbnb it regardless, eventually, right? And it was great. I mean, I found a really, really chill landlord. I cold called a bunch of places. It took me like 100 phone calls to finally find this landlord. And his name is Chris. And Chris, if you're watching this, you're super cool, bro. And I still like you despite the experience that we had. But signed a lease with him. It was a duplex, so he lived in the bottom unit. He was house hacking the unit. Now, if you guys don't know what house hacking is, it's a real estate term where you pretty much just like buy a house and then you live in a part of it and then you rent the other part out, and then the tenant who rents the other part out pays for the mortgage of the entire house, and then you as the homeowner will live for free. You're pretty much hacking it, like you're house hacking it. It's literally what it's called. So he was trying to house hack and rent out the top unit of the duplex to someone else, like myself. I pitched him the whole Airbnb idea. He was a little bit hesitant at first, but I told him like, hey, I was gonna take care of the unit. I was gonna do this and that and maintenance, and we were gonna, upkeep it. And so I managed to convince him to give the rental to me. So he was living in the bottom unit. I signed a lease for the top unit, which was like a 2-bedroom unit with like a kitchen, and it barely had like a living room. And it was like pretty much like a, rundown unit. It was super small. I ran the numbers on it. He was charging $1,500 a month. I ran the numbers on it. The property was projected to do close to $3,000 in revenue. Okay, on AirDNA. So I was like, okay, well, this is sick. I'm just gonna, sign this lease. I'm gonna make $1,500 in profit. This is gonna be great. I had no idea about cleaning costs back then. I had no idea about utilities, how expensive those could be. I had no idea about property insurance, Airbnb fees, like none of that stuff, right? So I was like, you know what, let's just go sign this unit. Let's mess around and see what happens. Signed the unit, was making good money for a few months, and then I started to realize that like the expenses were adding up, right? Each cleaning on that unit costed me $100, and the unit was pretty booked up and occupied, so I would have around like 7 cleans. And so we would have around like $700 of cleaning expenses per month. And then we would have another like $200 of utility expenses, which ranged to be around like $900 right there in total. And then Airbnb fees and all that crap. It was like a smooth little, like around like $1,000 in expenses, okay? And I was making $1,500 of profit. So after the $1,000 of expenses, I was really taking home in cash flow like $500 of profit. So right off the bat, I was like, oh shit, like I ran my numbers wrong. This is, didn't anticipate these types of expenses. Thankfully, the property was already furnished, so I didn't have to furnish the actual house, because that would have been $5,000 to $7,000 right there, furnishing a small 2-bedroom apartment. So luckily I had it already furnished. Chris already set everything up for me. But what I didn't take into consideration was the slow season in that area, right? And so I didn't run my comps correctly, and the $3,000 of revenue that the property was generating was revenue that the property was generating during the summer. And so I wasn't aware that during the winter time, like nobody is really traveling to Baltimore, like it's cold, like it's, that's the slow season in that area on the East Coast in Maryland. And that is when it hit me, right? Went into some droughts, didn't underwrite my numbers correctly. We started to do like close to like, we went from $3,000 in revenue from all-time highs all the way down to like $2,000 in revenue. And it was a small unit, like the revenue wasn't crazy. But that drop in $1,000 clapped our margins, because now we went from making $500 a month to losing $500 a month, okay? So the $500 really, or the $1,000 drop really killed us. And then that unit put me into negative cash flow. And so for a very long time, on Airbnb, I was not making any money. On Verbo, I was not making any money. And Furnish Finder was really, really difficult to find travel nurses in that area as well. So like we were losing a lot of money. And I feel like this is just the type of stuff that nobody talks about, because underwriting deals is super, super important. And if I had gone and taken it a step further and looked at other properties in the area that were getting rented out and had seen what they were getting rented out for, I would have realized this and probably have outed the deal or not signed it in the first place. For example, the properties that were generating $3,000 consistently in revenue were far nicer than the unit I had, okay? They had 2 full bedrooms, 2 full bathrooms, which I didn't, a kitchen and a living room, electronics. Like they had really, really nice apartments, right? And I just had 2 full bedrooms, 1 bathroom, and a kitchen. So my unit was far smaller, far less luxurious, and it had a whole less bathroom. And these are small things and characteristics that like for real estate agents and investors and people like myself who are watching this right now, it's like, hey bro, like this was obvious. Don't compare apples to oranges here, right? But I had no idea. So I was like, oh wow, these other houses nearby are making $3,000 a month. Let me just go ahead and sign my lease and I can also make $3,000 a month. Come to find out, the reason why they were doing $3K a month was because they had the amenities to weather out the storm while they were in low season. And they were still getting bookings while properties like mine weren't. And mine was only hot during the high season when in reality, you want to find a property that's good and stable year round. So, was not aware of that, lost money, thankfully got out of the lease and went ahead and signed another lease and kept it pushing. But like, this was a really, really valuable lesson on many fronts, right? I learned a lot from this because this was my first actual Airbnb rental property that was mine. Now I was a property manager and managing other properties before this as well. That's how I got the experience to kind of do it. But this was my first experience where I was like, I need to learn about running numbers. I need to learn about running comps, right? And it was a humbling experience because most people, when they lose money in business, what do? They either file for bankruptcy, or they get demotivated, or they go find another job or another business to start. Like, people give up. Like, it's very, very natural for people to give up because many people believe that they're not meant to lose, right? Like, a lot of people are like egotistical in a way where they have this pride of themselves where it's like, oh, okay, well, if this business lost me money or if I lost money here, it must be that business that is not profitable or corrupt or doesn't make sense. It can't be me, right? That's how most people think. So that's why most people, when they lose money or they have a traumatic experience like I did, they will quit that business because they think that business is at fault. And they think the reason why they lost money is because the business is not profitable. When in reality, I know tons of people who are making multiple millions of dollars from Airbnb, 7, 8 figure earners from Airbnb, from real estate, from day trading, from e-commerce, from every single business model is profitable. It really just comes down to the user. Like, who is operating the business? And if it didn't work for you, but it's working for the majority of other investors, why didn't it work for you? And this is just where my brain goes. Like, whenever I lose money, whenever anything happens to me that, whatever outcome I get that I'm not looking for, I always ask myself, okay, well, why did this happen to me? And why did this not happen to so and so and so? I love comparing myself, right? And I love comparing situations. So many people will say, well, Reed, don't compare yourself to other people. They're lying to you. I love comparing myself because if other people are wearing a $50,000 watch on their wrist or driving a $200,000 car or living in a 2-story penthouse, why can't I have those things? What is different from that person than me? We're both breathing oxygen. We both have blood going through our veins. So like, in that sense, I was like, hey, listen, like, I already know so many people who are successful in Airbnb. Why did this not work out? Oh, I was just being an idiot and I underwrote the deal incorrectly. Oh, I was not looking at the occupancy rates in the low season. Oh, I was not comparing, the characteristics of the property to other properties that were nearby. So once I figured out my mistake, I was like, okay, well, now I know where I screwed up. Let me go, instead of quitting this business and trying to move and pivot into something else, let me go and actually try to solve my mistake, go get another property, become profitable, and then if I really don't want to do this business, I can have the courage to actually go to something else. And now at that point, I have the peace of mind and I can sleep well at night knowing that I solved my mistake and that I'm not the dumbass here, right? So, moral of the story is losing money is a part of the process. You're never going to learn how to make money until you've lost it first. Because losing money, it's not just like a gamble where you're just throwing money at something. Like, you're not just playing crabs or roulette at the casino. Like, in that case, you really can't learn your lesson because you're leaving the lesson up to odds and chance. But like, if you're in a business and you're doing something and you're putting in work and the outcome is not the outcome that you want, well, go back and figure out why the input that you put in gave you the outcome that you didn't want. And then try to fix it, try to make tweaks, try to control a certain variable and then tweak another variable, or try to split test multiple different things at once until you figure out what the root cause of the issue is so that you can become profitable. So if you're watching this video right now and you're in real estate and you're struggling on your first deal, I do have other videos that will help with increasing occupancy. I've now figured out and cracked the code to the Airbnb algorithm on how to get your properties noticed in the search page, how to get them occupied, how to get them booked at high nightly rates. I will put links to those videos down below so you guys can watch them. They're very, very helpful, and I wish that someone would, teach me those things when I first got started on my first deal. But if you're struggling or in your place that you don't want to be, guys, it's a part of the process. You really have two options. You can either quit like everyone else does, or you can stand up and fight and keep it pushing. So, hope this helps. If you guys are looking to get into the Airbnb business, I do have a one-on-one coaching program that now helps entrepreneurs like yourself, or 9-to-5 workers, or individuals who are trying to get into real estate full-time. I have a program that can be catered and to help you do the same. So I'll leave a link for that in the description below as well. If you want to apply, you can book a free consultation call to speak to someone on my team to see if it's a good fit for you.